A man in Bosnia killed his ex-wife and streamed it live on Instagram before he took his own life.
Norman Suram-Manovic's hands gripped Nzama Havik by the throat, dragging her across the floor while she struggled for breath. Blood smeared the floor beneath her as he hit her repeatedly, ignoring her desperate pleas. In full view of thousands of stunned Instagram Live viewers, Nzama's cries were silenced as Norman tightened his hold, the camera capturing every horrifying second. What started as a routine broadcast had become a nightmarish live execution, leaving viewers paralyzed by what they were witnessing. This was not just a murder, it was a horrific spectacle of brutality streamed for the world to see, exposing the failure of a system that had already ignored Nzama's cries for help. In this video, I am discussing a deeply disturbing case that shocked not just the local community, but people around the world. This story centers on an influencer boyfriend who broadcast his horrific actions live on Instagram. It is a tragic reminder of the dark side of social media and the severe consequences of domestic abuse. This case gained international attention because it involved a gruesome series of murders streamed in real time, showcasing the brutal nature of the perpetrator's actions and the failure of the system to protect the victim. The significance of this case goes beyond just the shocking nature of the crime. It highlights critical issues within the justice system and social media's role in amplifying violence. Nzama Havik, a young mother trying to escape an abusive relationship, became the victim of a heinous act committed by her influencer boyfriend, Norman Suram-Manovic. The fact that these brutal acts were broadcast live, and the perpetrator's apparent enjoyment of the attention he received, makes this case particularly alarming. By discussing this story, we aim to shed light on the failures of both the legal system and the broader societal response to domestic violence, hoping to spark conversations that could lead to meaningful change and better protection for those at risk. Nzama Havik was a young mother who had faced a difficult and tumultuous life. She had a baby daughter whom she loved deeply and who represented her hopes for a better future. Nzama had been in a troubled relationship with Norman Suram-Manovic, a man whose behavior and actions would soon reveal themselves to be tragically harmful. Despite her efforts to build a positive life for herself and her child, Nzama was entangled in a relationship that proved to be deeply damaging. Norman Suram-Manovic was known as an influencer and personal trainer. He had gained some popularity on social media for his fitness content, and he used this platform to build a reputation as a confident and successful individual. However, beneath this public image was a troubling history. Norman's behavior had raised red flags over time. Those close to him had noted instances of aggressive and controlling behavior, which should have been warning signs. Nzama's own experiences with him were marked by abuse and intimidation, which she reported to the authorities multiple times. Their relationship had deteriorated significantly over the years, with Nzama trying to escape the abuse she faced. She had sought help from the police on numerous occasions, believing that her life and the life of her daughter were in imminent danger. Unfortunately, her calls for help went largely ignored or dismissed, and her attempts to secure legal protection, such as restraining orders, were rejected. Domestic violence is a pervasive issue that affects countless individuals worldwide. It involves a pattern of abusive behavior used by one partner to gain or maintain control over another partner in an intimate relationship. In this case, the violence that Nzama endured was not an isolated incident, but part of a broader, troubling pattern of abuse that is all too common. The failure of the legal system to address these issues adequately contributed to the tragic outcome, highlighting the urgent need for better protection and support for victims of domestic violence. Before I talk about the details of the tragic day when everything happened, I want to take a moment to encourage you to subscribe to the channel. By hitting the subscribe button, you help support the creation of more videos that tackle important and often overlooked issues like this one. Your subscription not only helps us reach a wider audience, but also motivates me to continue bringing these crucial stories to light. Now, let's take a closer look at the day of the incident, where the horror of Nzama Havic's situation was broadcast live, shocking viewers around the world. The day of the incident began with a shocking live stream that would change everything for those involved. Norman Suram-Manovic started his Instagram live broadcast with an unsettling calmness. Viewers tuned in, expecting to see his usual fitness content, but were quickly confronted with something far more disturbing. Norman's demeanor was unnerving from the start. He appeared agitated and detached, and it became clear that something was terribly wrong. Nzama Havik was the first person seen on the live stream. sitting on a bench, looking visibly distressed. She was holding her baby tightly, clearly trying to protect her from the situation. Norman, holding a gun, approached her with a menacing presence. The live stream captured the terrifying moments as Nzama attempted to reason with him, her voice filled with fear and desperation. Despite her pleas, Norman's intentions were brutally clear. As the live stream continued, the situation escalated violently. Norman, without warning, turned the gun on Nzama. The horrifying act of murder was broadcast live to his followers. The viewers witnessed the unthinkable. Nzama was shot in cold blood, her life ending in front of countless people. The scene was both graphic and heartbreaking, leaving many viewers in shock and disbelief. The immediate aftermath of the live stream was chaotic and deeply unsettling. As news of the murder spread, the public reacted with a mix of horror and outrage. Social media was flooded with comments and discussions about the graphic content viewers had just witnessed. The emotional and psychological impact on the audience was profound, as many struggled to process what they had seen. The live stream not only displayed the brutality of the crime, but also forced the viewers to confront the reality of domestic violence in a way that few had experienced before. The event left a lasting mark on everyone who had been forced to watch such a tragedy unfold in real time. In the immediate aftermath of the murder, the scene was one of utter horror. The 2-year-old daughter of Nzama Hovik was left alone beside her mother's lifeless body. The child, who had been caught in the middle of this violent act, was in a state of shock and confusion. She was found in the same distressing situation where the live stream had ended, clinging to her mother's side, unable to comprehend the tragedy unfolding around her. The scene was heart-wrenching, highlighting the innocent life disrupted by the horrifying actions of Norman Suleimanovich. The rescue came in the nick of time thanks to Amia, Norman's boss, who arrived at the crime scene. Amia had been alerted to the situation through the horrifying live stream that had gone viral. Upon discovering the gruesome scene, Amia acted swiftly to secure the child's safety. He carefully removed the little girl from the scene, ensuring she was safely away from the trauma she had just witnessed. This act of bravery was crucial in protecting the child from further harm and providing her with immediate care and comfort. However, the reaction to Amia's actions was not entirely positive. Despite his heroism in rescuing the child, some internet users directed their anger and frustration towards him. They accused him of various things, including not intervening sooner and facing threats from individuals who were incensed by the situation. The public's response was a mix of shock and misplaced rage, which was deeply troubling given the circumstances. Fortunately, the child's well-being was secured after the traumatic events. She was placed under the care of Nzama's sister, who took on the responsibility of raising her. This arrangement provided the little girl with a stable and loving environment, essential for her healing and recovery. While the psychological impact of the day's events will likely stay with her, being with a family who can offer care and support is a crucial step in her journey towards stability. Following the horrific murder of Nzama Hovik, Norman Suleimanovich continued to broadcast his actions through a second Instagram livestream. In this stream, Norman's demeanor was even more erratic and unsettling. He appeared to be in a state of manic excitement, taunting viewers with his violent actions. During this broadcast, he revealed shocking updates, including his intention to commit further violence. His behavior suggested a deepening detachment from reality, and his willingness to share these acts publicly only highlighted the sense of dread among viewers. The violence did not stop with Nzama. Norman went on to kill a father and his son in a brutal spree that shocked the community. The murders were carried out in cold blood, leaving a trail of devastation in their wake. As he roamed the streets, Norman showed no regard for the lives he was taking. His actions were not just confined to the livestream. He became a visible and active threat, causing widespread panic throughout the town. His spree included random attacks on passers-by, adding to the terror that had gripped the area. Meanwhile, the police worked tirelessly to track Norman. The live streams became a crucial tool in their efforts to locate him. They used the information from the broadcasts to follow his movements and piece together his location. The urgency of their response was palpable, as they understood the need to act quickly to prevent further loss of life. The situation was a race against time, with every moment bringing more potential for violence. In his final moments, Norman's actions took a dramatic turn. Faced with the reality of his situation and likely overwhelmed by his actions and the approaching police, he chose to end his life. Norman took the same pistol he had used in his early murders and turned it on himself. This tragic end occurred shortly after his final livestream, marking the end of his reign of terror. His suicide was both a grim conclusion to a day of horror and a grim reminder of the tragic outcome of his violent spree. The police, although they had been closing in on him, arrived too late to intervene, and Norman's death meant the full extent of his actions would never be brought to justice in the conventional sense. After Norman Suamanovich's shocking crimes, the investigation sought to understand his background and uncover any previous wrongdoings. The police delved into his past to determine if he had committed other murders before the tragic events of that day. Despite their efforts, details about his criminal history remained elusive. The investigation uncovered that while Norman had a reputation for erratic behavior, concrete evidence of earlier crimes was sparse. The lack of clear information led to questions about whether he had evaded justice for other potential offenses. The public reaction to the case was intense and filled with outrage. Many criticized the authorities for their failure to protect Nzama Havik. It became evident that Nzama had repeatedly sought help from the police and had reported Norman's abusive behavior. Despite her pleas, her requests for protection, including a restraining order, were not adequately addressed. The failure to enforce this restraining order, which was rejected just a week before her murder, highlighted significant issues within the legal system. The case spotlighted systemic problems with how domestic violence cases are handled and the gaps in the legal protections for victims. The case had a profound impact on discussions about domestic violence. It became a focal point for debates about how authorities handle such cases and the effectiveness of current laws. The tragic story of Nzama Havik and Norman Suamanovic highlights the severe consequences of domestic violence and the failings of legal systems meant to protect victims. Nzama's horrific murder, broadcast live on Instagram by her abusive partner, drew attention to the dire need for better support and protection for those facing domestic abuse. Norman's subsequent actions, including his additional crimes and eventual suicide, only deepened the tragedy and left a lasting impact on the public. It is crucial for all of us to stay vigilant about domestic violence and support victims in any way we can. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic abuse, it is important to reach out for help and utilize available resources. Supporting organizations that offer assistance and advocating for stronger protections can make a difference. In reflecting on this case, it is evident that systemic changes are necessary to prevent such tragedies in the future. The story of Nzama and Norman serves as a stark reminder of the urgent need to address gaps in our legal system and ensure that every person facing abuse receives the protection they deserve. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope this case encourages a broader discussion on how to better support and protect victims of domestic violence.
Do you have the weapons in your room with you when they found you?
Just a gun.
So you weren't trying to get away with it?
The gun was to be given to somebody to clean and hide.
Suddenly, a chilling scream shattered the stillness, reverberating through the corridors like a ghostly wail. Blood-stained walls, a grim reminder of the horror that had just taken place. Smoke hung heavy in the air, mingling with an overwhelming sense of dread, revealing the horrifying events that we're about to disclose. In that fateful hour, a fragile mind devised a sinister plan that would shatter a family's world, betrayal and violence intertwining in a shocking tragedy. This is the grim story of the Caffey family murders, where loyalty crumbled and innocence vanished without a trace. Terry and Penny Caffey worked hard to provide a loving and supporting home for their 3 children. They were committed to strong family values, emphasizing trust and respect. Terry was known for his calm demeanor, while Penny brought joy and energy to their lives. Together they aimed to create a nurturing environment for Aaron, Justin, and their youngest child. As the eldest, Aaron faced typical teenage challenges and began to experience the highs and lows of relationships. Her most significant relationship was with Charlie Wilkinson. Initially, their romance seemed like a typical teenage affair. However, it soon grew more complex. Charlie's influence over Aaron became evident as she was drawn to him despite warning signs. Aaron struggled with her identity and self-worth, feeling pressure to meet peer expectations and navigate intense emotions. Her growing independence worried her parents, who noticed her increasing distance and secrecy. Erin began to confide more in Charlie than in her family, creating a rift that led to a noticeable change in her behavior and relationships with her siblings. Charlie's influence over Erin grew. He introduced ideas that deepened her frustrations with her family. The ideas became a blend of love and manipulation, trapping Erin in a cycle she found hard to escape. Her parents' attempts to intervene only widened the gap between them, leaving Erin feeling isolated and misunderstood. As Erin distracted herself from her family, Justin and the youngest sibling noticed changes but struggled to understand or help. What started as a normal teenage conflict escalated into a troubling situation, setting the stage for the tragic events that followed. Erin's feelings towards her family became more strained as she wrestled with her identity and independence. She felt trapped by her parents' rules and believed they did not understand her. This growing resentment made her yearn for freedom, and she saw breaking away from her parents as the only path to happiness. Charlie became a central figure in Erin's life, offering both charm and a dark influence. He agreed with Erin's criticisms of her parents, validating her frustrations and deepening her sense of betrayal. This validation clouded Erin's judgment and led her to view her family in a negative light. Charlie suggested extreme measures to escape her family's control. Their conversations shifted from typical teenage dreams to discussions of violence. Charlie's manipulation made Erin consider that eliminating her family might bring that freedom she desired. As Erin's thoughts grew darker, driven by Charlie's influence and her own frustrations, she began to see murder as a possible solution. The idea did not start as a deliberate plan, but evolved from a toxic mix of manipulation and resentment. Erin's increasing secrecy and attachment to Charlie led her down a dangerous path, culminating in a horrifying act that would change her life forever. The night of the murders started quietly, contrasting sharply with the chaos that was about to unfold. The Caffey home was peaceful, lit only by the moonlight. Terry and Penny Caffey had settled in for the night, unaware of the horror approaching. Their 3 children, Erin, Justin, and the youngest sibling, were asleep. Beneath the warmth of family life, tension simmered unnoticed. As midnight approached, the atmosphere shifted. Shadows deepened outside as Erin's accomplices, Charlie Wilkinson, Bobby Johnson, and Charles Wade, arrived. Charlie, the mastermind, had convinced Erin that this was her only escape from her family's control. Bobby and Charles, driven by loyalty and excitement, approached the house with grim determination. Inside, the mood turned tense. Erin, torn between fear and excitement, let them in. They gathered in her room, whispering about their plan. As they plotted, the reality of their actions began to settle in. Charlie urged Erin to see this as her chance for freedom, and the group moved through the dark house, their footsteps heavy with dread. The violence erupted suddenly. Terry and Penny were jolted awake by screams as their attackers stormed their bedroom. Panic spread through the house as the family tried to grasp their situation. Erin, conflicted, stood frozen, caught between loyalty to Charlie and her love for her parents. The home, once a place of comfort, became a scene of unimaginable horror. Terry and Penny fought back, but the attackers were relentless. The struggle was brutal, with the sounds of their fight echoing through the house. Erin, overwhelmed by conflicted emotions, watched as her world crumbled. The house, once filled with laughter, turned into a battleground, ripping apart the very fabric of their family. After the violence, the group tried to cover their tracks by setting the house on fire. They spread gasoline throughout the rooms, igniting flames that quickly consumed everything. Smoke filled the air as the fire raged, transforming the quiet night into a scene of destruction. As the fire blazed, Erin faced the stark reality of their actions. Watching her childhood home burn, she saw her memories reduced to ashes. This was not freedom, but a nightmare. The aftermath of the night would haunt her for years. The group fled, leaving behind a shattered home and family. What was meant to be an escape became a tragedy, forever changing the lives of everyone involved. As the fire lit up the sky, the consequences of their choices would follow Erin and her accomplices for the rest of their lives. The aftermath of the horrific events left the Caffey home in ruins. As dawn arrived, neighbors noticed smoke rising from the house and called the police. When authorities arrived, they found the house severely damaged by fire and the bodies of Terry and Penny Caffey, who had been brutally attacked. Detectives quickly began investigating, gathering evidence that soon pointed to Aaron's involvement. Neighbors described the family as seemingly normal, but hinted at underlying turmoil. This led detectives to suspect that the crime might have involved someone close to the family. Aaron was taken into custody and initially claimed to be a victim. She insisted she had no role in the violence, portraying herself as coerced. Her emotional state varied from tears to anger as she tried to deflect blame onto Charlie and the others. However, as evidence piled up, it became clear that Charlie's influence had heavily impacted Aaron's decisions. Witnesses came forward, revealing Aaron's decisions about her family and her plans with Charlie. It became apparent that Aaron's motivations were more complex than she admitted. The investigation also established a timeline, revealing layers of betrayal and pain. The media quickly picked up the story, with sensational headlines spreading the tragedy far beyond the local community. Aaron's arrest drew widespread attention and public outrage, as many struggled to comprehend how a young girl could commit such a horrific act against her own family. As the case unfolded, it exposed a web of deceit and manipulation, with the path to justice just beginning. Terry Caffey's reflections on that night are filled with pain and confusion. He struggled to come to terms with the betrayal of his daughter. In an interview, he expressed his shock, saying, "I never thought my daughter could be capable of such violence." His words captured the deep sorrow of a father confronted with a heartbreaking reality. Michael Washburn, Aaron's former boyfriend, shed light on Aaron's mindset before the tragedy. He recalled that Aaron had voiced strong negative feelings about her family, saying, "She told me she wanted her parents gone. I didn't take it seriously at the time." Michael's testimony highlights the warning signs that were not fully recognized. Family and friends of the Caffey family were left in disbelief and shock. Many struggled to reconcile the Aaron they knew with the person involved in the murders. One family friend summed up the sentiment saying, "It was like living a nightmare. To think that Aaron, who was part of our lives, could do something so horrific. It was beyond comprehension." The reactions from those close to the Caffey family reveals a deep sense of loss and confusion as they tried to make sense of the tragedy. The various testimonies and reflections offer a complex view of a family devastated by violence and betrayal. Terry Caffey's struggle, Michael Washburn's insights, and the reactions from family and friends all contribute to understanding the emotional turmoil of this case. The trials following the Caffey family murders were marked by intense courtroom drama and emotional testimonies. Aaron Caffey and her accomplices faced hearings that drew public and media attention. Each trial revealed more about the horrific crime, with the prosecution presenting evidence of how Aaron, Charlie Wilkinson, and the other conspirators had planned and executed the murders. The defense worked to navigate the grim details, hoping to lessen the consequences their clients faced. Aaron's defense team argued that her relationship with Charlie Wilkinson heavily influenced her actions. They portrayed her as a victim of emotional distress rather than a deliberate perpetrator. Despite these arguments, the prosecution provided strong evidence of Aaron's direct involvement and premeditation. The defense's attempt to depict Aaron as a troubled young woman under duress did not sway the court's focus on the severity of the crime. The sentencing of Aaron and her accomplices marked the end of the legal proceedings. Aaron Caffey received a minimum sentence of 42 years in prison, reflecting her significant role in the murders. Her co-conspirators also faced severe sentences. Charlie Wilkinson and others were given life sentences without parole, while Bobby Johnson received a minimum of 20 years. These sentences highlighted the seriousness of the crimes and the impact on the Caffey family and the community. The trials underscored the complexities of the case and the deep emotional scars left by the crimes. The legal battles were not just about justice, but also about understanding the motivations behind the acts of violence and betrayal. The sentences served as a stark reminder of the consequences of such actions. Legal expert Dr. Smith offers insights into the complexity of the Caffey family murder case, shedding light on the legal ramifications of the actions taken by Aaron Caffey and her accomplices. According to Dr. Smith, the case is particularly intricate due to the premeditated nature of the crime and the involvement of multiple individuals. Aaron's role in particular was critical to understanding the severity of the legal consequences. Her actions were not merely impulsive, but involved careful planning and manipulation, which played a significant part in the courtroom's decision. Dr. Smith highlights that one of the key legal issues in this case was Aaron's influence over the others involved. Her relationship with Charlie Wilkinson was central to the prosecution's argument. It showed how emotional and psychological factors were intertwined with the crime. The defense's attempt to portray Erin as a victim of her circumstances faced strong opposition. The legal system had to carefully consider the extent of Erin's responsibility and the degree to which her actions were influenced by others. The expert points out that the harsh sentences handed down to Erin and her accomplices reflect the seriousness of their crimes. The legal system aimed to balance justice for the victims with the need to address the complex dynamics of the case. The long sentences for Erin and her co-conspirators serve as a reminder of the gravity of their actions and the impact on the victim's family and the community. Dr. Smith notes that the legal outcomes also underscore the role of premeditation and planning in determining the severity of punishment. The Caffey family murder case highlights deep themes of love, betrayal, and family dynamics. It shows how trust and affection can be twisted into something devastating. The love that should have united the Caffey family was shattered by a betrayal so profound it's hard to understand. This case reveals how family bonds can become strained and lead to tragedy when underlying issues are left unresolved. In the aftermath, Erin Caffey's mindset has been widely analyzed. Her actions starkly contrast the expected family love with the betrayal she committed. Her emotional state is complex. She faces guilt and remorse while grappling with the extent of her betrayal. Erin's struggle to reconcile her actions underscores the severe impact of betrayal within a family. It illustrates how personal conflicts and emotional turmoil can lead to destructive decisions. The case serves as a powerful reminder of the fragility of relationships and the devastating effects when love turns to hatred. The story of Erin Caffey and the Caffey family emphasizes the severe consequences of broken family bonds. Years after the horrifying events that changed her life forever, Erin Caffey looks back on her actions with a mix of regret and disbelief. Reflecting on her choices, Erin struggles to come to terms with the impact of what she did. The passage of time has given her a clearer perspective, yet the weight of her decisions remain heavy. Erin's reflections reveal a profound sense of remorse and an understanding of the irreversible consequences of her actions. In a candid moment of self-reflection, Erin admitted, "I didn't realize the consequences of my actions until it was too late." This statement underscores a harsh truth. The full impact of her decision only became apparent after the damage was done. From a life of betrayal and violence to grappling with the lifelong effects of her choices. The final interview with Erin provides a glimpse into her ongoing struggles with guilt and the emotional burden she carries. It is a sobering reminder that even as time passes, the effects of such profound actions do not fade easily. Erin's reflections offer insight into the personal cost of her decisions and the lasting repercussions that extend far beyond the initial acts of violence. The impact of the Caffey family tragedy ripples through time, leaving behind lessons of forgiveness and loss. What happens when trust is broken beyond repair? Join the conversation in the comments, like this video, and subscribe to stay updated.
Now, in a shocking incident, a former model who was a finalist in the Miss Switzerland contest was allegedly murdered and purried in a blender by her own husband.
Within the seemingly ordinary walls of their family home, a simmering tension erupted into a nightmarish reality. Christina, a former Miss Switzerland finalist, became the victim of a brutal murder. Her remains subject to a level of horror that would horrify even the most seasoned investigators. This was not merely a crime, it was a calculated and grotesque act of desecration. In a terrifying turn of events, her husband, Thomas, not only took Christina's life, but went on to blend her remains in an act that defies comprehension. This is the harrowing story of a woman whose vibrant dreams were extinguished in the most unimaginable way. Christina was a former Miss Switzerland finalist, celebrated for her beauty and grace. She was admired not only for her public persona, but also for her role as a devoted mother to 2 young daughters. On the surface, her life appeared to be perfect, filled with accomplishments and joy. However, the reality of her marriage to Thomas was much darker than it seemed. Despite her public success, Christina faced significant challenges at home. Thomas, her husband, lived in the shadows of her fame. He was not a public figure and did not share the same level of recognition as Christina. Reports indicate that he had a troubled past with a history of conflicts and domestic issues. These struggles would later become crucial in piecing together the events that led to the tragic outcome of their lives. The tension in their relationship was often hidden from the outside world, masked by smiles in family photos and appearances as a typical family. Together, Christina and Thomas had built a life that included 2 beautiful daughters. By all appearances, they looked like a happy family, enjoying the everyday moments that life offers. Yet behind the facade of happiness, there were signs of deeper issues. Friends and neighbors noted the occasional arguments, and whispers of discontent began to circle. Christina's radiant smile often concealed her struggles, and the couple's seemingly idyllic life was fraught with underlying turmoil that few could see. This contrast between public perception and private reality would set the stage for the horrifying events that were to follow. Before the tragic murder, a horrifying pattern of domestic violence wove itself through the lives of Christina and Thomas. What started as a small argument quickly turned into terrifying confrontations. Neighbors and friends became unwilling witnesses to a relationship filled with fear. Reports surfaced of Thomas physically hurting Christina, with one shocking incident where he strangled her in front of others. These were not just fights, they revealed the horror that lay hidden behind their closed doors. Police were called to the home several times. Each time they arrived to find a scene filled with tension and fear. Though the officers saw the signs, Thomas always managed to avoid serious consequences. No arrests were made, allowing the cycle of violence to continue. Each visit from the police only added to the growing fear that wrapped around Christina like a heavy blanket. This violence was not just a single event, it was part of a frightening pattern. What began as arguments quickly turned into violent acts. Christina felt trapped in a nightmare that seemed endless. Friends noticed her growing anxiety and how she appeared smaller, worn down by Thomas's control. It was as if a dark force gripped her life, leaving her scared and isolated. The rising tension created an atmosphere filled with dread. Christina often looked haunted, her eyes filled with unspoken fears. She carried the weight of her situation in silence, wishing for a way out, but feeling too scared to escape. With each act of violence, Thomas tightened his hold on her, and the dream of a happy family faded further away. Those who cared about Christina wished they had seen the signs earlier, that they could have pulled her from the darkness before it was too late. This history of domestic violence loomed like a storm, waiting to strike with a terrible force, and the tragic end was already set in motion. In early February, a scary act occurred within the walls of what was once a family home filled with laughter. Thomas strangled Christina to death, but this was not a moment of blind rage. It was a calculated and deliberate act, marked by cold intent. Strangulation is a slow and intimate way to take a life, demanding time and a complete lack of empathy. The gruesome details that followed painted a horrifying picture of what transpired. Once Christina lay lifeless, the nightmare did not end for her. Thomas moved forward with a plan that can only be described as monstrous. He dismembered her body using tools that one might find in a workshop, including a jigsaw. Each cut was a chilling reminder of the horror he inflicted. This was no act of passion. It was a chilling act of control and brutality. The act of dismemberment itself is horrific, but it is what Thomas did next that truly horrifies. In one of the most disturbing twists, he took the body parts and placed them into a blender. The whirling of the machine mixed with the reality of what he was doing, transforming a life into mere remnants. It is unimaginable to think of the fear and pain Christina might have felt in her final moments. After blending her remains, he did not stop there. He attempted to dissolve what was left in a chemical solution, an act so chilling it sends shivers down the spine. This was not just murder. It was an attempt to erase all evidence of the life he had taken. This horrifying sequence of events unfolded in the silence of their home, a place that should have been a sanctuary. Instead, it became a scene of unimaginable terror. Thomas's actions showed a complete disregard for human life, leaving behind a haunting image of cruelty that would forever mark the lives of those left behind. What happened that day was not merely a crime. It was an abomination that shocked even the most hardened investigators and left a community grappling with disbelief. After the horrific discovery of Christina's body, Thomas faced the police with a shocking account. He initially claimed that Christina had died back in January. In a chilling display of denial, he insisted he had simply found her lifeless and panicked, leading him to dismember her body. This first confession seemed to lack emotion, as if he was detached from the reality of what happened. However, as investigators dug deeper, Thomas's story began to unravel. In a second confession, he presented a new narrative. He claimed that he killed Christina in self-defense, alleging that she had attacked him with a knife. This drastic change in his story raised immediate red flags for detectives. They began to suspect he was not merely a frightened husband, but a man with something much darker to hide. The shifting narratives created an unsettling atmosphere. Thomas's attempt to destroy evidence only added to the suspicion surrounding him. Blending Christina's remains and trying to dissolve them showed a clear conscience of guilt. His actions painted a picture of someone who was not reacting in pain, but rather someone who was carefully plotting to cover up a brutal crime. Investigators began to piece together the truth. The story of a man acting out of fear and self-preservation did not align with the calculated measures taken after the murder. The evidence pointed towards a premeditated act, revealing the horrifying reality of what occurred within those once loving walls. As the investigation continued, the shocking truth about Thomas and his actions became harder to ignore, leaving everyone questioning how a person could descend into such darkness. The detectives knew they had to follow the trail of lies to uncover the real story behind Christina's tragic end. During the investigation, detectives observed a chilling aspect of Thomas's personality. He displayed a remarkable lack of empathy while confessing to the crime. His words came out in a cold, almost mechanical way as he spoke about dismembering Christina. This disturbing behavior suggested he was not just a man in panic, but someone who could detach himself from the horror of his actions, hinting at sociopathic tendencies. As the questioning continued, further alarming traits emerged. Reports indicated that Thomas might have exhibited sadistic behavior. He showed no signs of remorse or sadness when discussing what he had done. Instead, he seemed almost indifferent to the gravity of his crime. The extreme measures he took to desecrate Christina's body painted a picture of a man who was completely devoid of typical human empathy and compassion. This lack of empathy could have serious consequences during the trial. If the prosecution brings forth evidence of Thomas's chilling demeanor and emotional detachment, it could significantly influence how the jury views his mental state. A jury might see him not just as a husband who lost control, but as someone who had carefully planned and executed a horrific act. Such perceptions would further weaken any attempt by the defense to argue for insanity or a temporary lapse in judgment. The courtroom would likely become a battleground of psychological insights, with the prosecution portraying Thomas as a man who understood exactly what he was doing. His actions, combined with his shocking lack of remorse, could leave jurors with a haunting image of a man capable of unimaginable evil. This unsettling narrative would not only shape the trial, but also linger in the minds of all who witnessed it. The chilling discovery of Christina's remains led to Thomas's arrest in February. From the start, the nature of his crime painted a clear picture. He was a serious danger to the public. The brutal manner in which he treated his wife's body shocked investigators and the community alike. Such a crime left no doubt that he was capable of extreme violence, raising alarms about what he might do if set free. Recently, Thomas sought to appeal for his release from custody, hoping to convince the court of his right to regain freedom. However, the court swiftly denied this request. Given the horrifying details surrounding the crime and the calculated efforts he made to conceal his actions, this decision was expected. The judge had to weigh the severity of the crime against any arguments Thomas might present for his release. Several factors likely influenced the judge's ruling. The danger Thomas posed to society was paramount. The fear that he could harm others or even attempt to flee made it clear he should remain behind bars. This situation left the community unsettled, knowing that a man accused of such horrific acts was still a threat. As the case continues to unfold, the focus remains on justice for Christina and ensuring that Thomas cannot cause any more harm. The court's decision sends a message. Some actions demand serious consequences, and the protection of the public must come first. Christina was much more than just a victim. She was a cherished mother and a well-known figure in her community. Her loss has left a deep void, affecting not only her family, but also everyone who knew her. Friends and neighbors remember her kindness and warmth, and her tragic end serves as a painful reminder of the horrors that can lurk behind closed doors. The community mourns the woman who brought joy to many, now taken away in the most horrifying manner. The future of Christina's 2 daughters hangs in the balance. After Thomas's arrest, questions about custody emerged, leaving the children's lives in turmoil. It is unclear who will care for them, but one thing is certain: their world has been turned upside down. They must now navigate life without their mother, facing a future clouded by uncertainty and loss. The emotional weight of such a tragedy will likely affect them for years to come, shaping their experiences as they grow. The reality of losing a beloved sister, daughter, and mother in such a violent way can create long-lasting emotional scars. As they try to cope with the horror of what happened, they must also support the children through this unimaginable time. The ripples of this tragedy will echo through their lives, forever changing their family dynamic and leaving behind a legacy of pain and heartache. The details of this case are disturbing, but they remind us of the real dangers that can exist behind closed doors. Domestic violence often escalates in ways that are difficult to predict, but in this case, it went beyond what anyone could have imagined. What could drive someone to commit such a brutal crime? And how do we protect those trapped in toxic, abusive relationships before it's too late? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you found this story compelling, be sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Let us know what crime story you'd like to hear next. A pool of blood slowly spread beneath Jennifer's lifeless body, marking the tragic end of a passionate romance fueled by lust and an age gap that masked the darker forces at play. Jennifer, a 45-year-old successful businesswoman, had captivated the young and ambitious 25-year-old Ryan, who was eager to escape his past and embrace the luxury she offered. But beneath the facade of wealth and adoration lay a web of manipulation, jealousy, and control that would ultimately lead to tragedy as their relationship deteriorated into a deadly obsession. The truth behind Jennifer's untimely death would shock a community and spark a gripping investigation. This is a true crime story of how love turned lethal, a chilling reminder of the dangers that can lurk within the most glamorous of lives. Ryan had always faced struggles in his life. Growing up in a modest neighborhood with limited opportunities left him feeling directionless after high school. Jobs were hard to come by, and each month was a battle to make ends meet. He often daydreamed of a better life, filled with excitement and success, but felt trapped in a cycle of financial hardship. Everything changed when Ryan met Jennifer at an art gallery opening in Riverton. He was immediately drawn to her confidence and elegance. Strikingly beautiful, Jennifer captivated him with her charm and sophistication. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, creating a chemistry that made Ryan feel special in a way he had never experienced before. In that moment, he realized he wanted to know her better. Shortly after their initial encounter, Jennifer made Ryan a surprising proposition: financial support in exchange for companionship. She promised to help him with his education and introduce him to new opportunities. This offer seemed too good to be true, yet Ryan felt intrigued. The chance for a better life and financial stability was too tempting to resist, so he accepted her offer, hoping to escape his struggles. Once Ryan moved into Jennifer's guest house, his life transformed dramatically. No longer living paycheck to paycheck, he received a wardrobe makeover that boosted his confidence. Jennifer also introduced him to art appreciation classes, allowing him to explore new interests. He was eager to impress her, but for Jennifer, Ryan was more than just a companion. He became a project she wanted to mold into her ideal partner. While Ryan enjoyed his new lifestyle, Jennifer was plotting ways to maintain control over him. What began as excitement and passion was shifting into something far more complicated, revealing deeper issues that would lead to serious consequences. As Ryan and Jennifer's relationship developed, the dynamic between them grew intensely passionate and consuming. They often found themselves lost in moments of desire, where time seemed to stand still. The excitement of their connection invigorated Ryan, who enjoyed the thrill of being desired by someone so much older and established. However, beneath this passion lay an undercurrent of tension, as insecurities and jealousy began to creep into their lives. Their social life became a whirlwind of glamour as they enjoyed lavish vacations and attended high-profile events together. Friends admired their relationship, often envying the lifestyle they shared. At these events, Jennifer's elegance and Ryan's youthful charm drew attention, but this also sparked jealousy. Ryan felt the weight of other men's gaze on Jennifer and worried someone might steal her attention. Meanwhile, Jennifer questioned Ryan's loyalty. Despite the thrill of their life together, simmering jealousy created a violent atmosphere. Amid this rising tension, a new character entered Ryan's life, Arya Thornton. Arya was a vibrant, free-spirited artist who captivated him from their first meeting at an art show. Drawn to her creativity and passion, Ryan found a genuine connection with Arya. Their conversations flowed effortlessly, filled with laughter and shared interests, bringing a sense of freedom that Ryan longed for. The initial chemistry was undeniable, making Ryan feel alive in ways he had not experienced in a long time. As their friendship blossomed, Arya encouraged Ryan to express himself more openly, reminding him of the person he had been before Jennifer's controlling nature took hold. However, this new connection did not go unnoticed. Jennifer sensed something was changing, and the presence of Arya became a source of unease. Tensions escalated, leading to unexpected consequences as both women vied for Ryan's attention and affection, causing the foundation of his relationship with Jennifer to crack under the weight of jealousy and insecurity. As Ryan spent more time with Arya, his feelings for her began to deepen. Their visits to the museum became regular events, filled with laughter and meaningful conversation. Each encounter brought a sense of excitement he had not felt in a long time. Arya's spontaneous and carefree spirit drew him in, contrasting sharply with Jennifer's controlling nature that often made him feel trapped. With Arya, Ryan could be himself without fear of judgment, while with Jennifer, he felt the weight of her expectations and demands. This blossoming friendship illuminated Ryan's life. He eagerly looked forward to learning more about Arya's world and her art. Together they explored galleries, shared dreams, and enjoyed each other's company. These moments filled Ryan with hope and possibility, inspiring him to think differently about his future and consider what he truly wanted. This was a stark contrast to the rigid structure of his relationship with Jennifer, where every decision seemed to revolve around her needs. As Ryan's connection with Arya grew, tension in his relationship with Jennifer intensified. Her jealousy flared as she sensed his change. She noticed the distracted thoughts and spark in his eyes when he mentioned Arya, which fueled her paranoia. To regain control, Jennifer began monitoring Ryan more closely, checking his phone and questioning him about his friends. The home atmosphere grew sour, filled with arguments over Ryan's supposed disloyalty. Each conversation made him feel suffocated, struggling to express his feelings without hurting Jennifer. Caught between two worlds, Ryan faced a difficult dilemma. He wanted to honor his commitments to Jennifer, who had done so much for him, yet his heart leaned toward Arya, offering freedom and happiness he had longed for. This internal conflict made it hard for him to find balance. As the emotional turmoil intensified, Ryan realized he needed to make a choice. At this crossroads, he understood that his decision could have serious consequences for everyone involved. Tension between Ryan and Jennifer reached a boiling point one evening when Jennifer confronted him about his frequent absences. She had noticed he was coming home later and seemed increasingly distant. As Ryan entered the house, Jennifer's cold gaze met him. Without hesitation, she demanded to know where he had been and who he had been with. Her voice trembled with anger as she accused him of betrayal. Ryan's heart raced as he tried to explain that he had been working late or spending time with friends, but Jennifer refused to accept his answers. The accusations stung deeply, trapping him in a web of lies. This confrontation changed their relationship dynamics. Ryan, who usually avoided conflict, found himself standing his ground. He realized he was tired of constant accusations and the need to prove his loyalty. As he expressed his feelings, Jennifer grew defensive instead of listening. The argument escalated quickly, filling the air with hostility. After this heated exchange, Ryan felt a mix of anger and sadness. He loved Jennifer, but could not continue living in fear of her accusations. This incident left a lingering rift, and Ryan began questioning how much longer he could endure such a toxic situation. To maintain control over Ryan, Jennifer employed various manipulation tactics. She ensured he felt financially dependent by covering all their expenses, from rent to entertainment. Whenever Ryan tried to assert his independence, Jennifer reminded him of the lavish lifestyle she provided. Emotional manipulation became her weapon. She threatened to withdraw support, playing on his fears of losing the life he had become accustomed to. Isolation also played a significant role. Jennifer discouraged Ryan from spending time with his friends, claiming they were a bad influence, leaving him feeling alone and unsure of whom to turn to for support. The situation darkened when Jennifer discovered Ryan's past accident, an incident that had left him traumatized and vulnerable. She used this revelation as leverage, threatening to expose details of his past if he dared to leave her. This tactic made Ryan feel helpless and scared, forcing him to walk on eggshells. Instead of solace, he found dread in their relationship. Caught in a tight corner, Ryan struggled to maintain his identity while yearning for freedom. The fear of retaliation kept him from acting, creating a cycle of conflict and manipulation that felt impossible to break. He knew something had to give, but the path forward remained unclear. A tragic night unfolded, one that would change everything for Ryan and Jennifer. It began at a gallery opening that Jennifer insisted Ryan attend with her. The atmosphere buzzed with excitement, but Ryan felt out of place among the well-dressed crowd. As they moved through the room, he spotted a familiar face, Arya, looking stunning in a vintage dress. When their eyes locked, nostalgia washed over him, reminding him of the genuine connection they once shared. Before Jennifer could react to his distraction, Ryan mumbled an excuse and slipped away, needing to escape her suffocating presence. After the gallery, Ryan wandered the streets, his mind racing. The encounter with Arya ignited a longing for a life free from Jennifer's control. When he finally returned to the estate in the early hours of the morning, he found Jennifer waiting for him, her expression cold and eyes filled with fury. The argument that erupted was unlike anything they had faced before. Fueled by the realization that he could no longer live under her thumb, Ryan confronted Jennifer about her manipulation and threats, standing firm and refusing to be her pawn. Jennifer's desperation turned to rage as she resorted to her final tactics, reminding Ryan of the evidence she had against him and threatened to ruin his future. Instead of cowing him into submission, her threats ignited fierce determination within him. He understood that a future with Jennifer, no matter how luxurious, would cost him his very soul. In that moment, he declared he was leaving her, regardless of the consequences. Jennifer's composure shattered at his words. With a primal scream, she lunged at Ryan, clawing at his face. Caught off guard, he stumbled backwards, knocking over a fragile antique vase. The sound of shattering porcelain only fueled her fury. In a frenzied state, she grabbed a heavy crystal decanter and swung it toward him. He ducked just in time, but the decanter crashed against the wall, sending glass shards flying. In the chaos, Jennifer found a sharp letter opener and plunged it towards Ryan's chest. He managed to deflect the blow, but the blade sliced deeply into his arm, blood spilling as pain coursed through him. Everything spiraled out of control, marking the end of their relationship. The morning after the violent confrontation, chaos descended upon the once opulent estate. It was the housekeeper who made the first shocking discovery. As she entered the living room, she found Jennifer's lifeless body sprawled near the fireplace, a haunting sight that would forever change the lives of those involved. Panic set in as she dialed 911, her trembling hands barely able to hold the phone. Within minutes, the police arrived, bringing with them a sense of urgency that filled the air. Detectives and crime scene technicians swarmed the house, assessing the situation and collecting evidence. The living room, once a place of beauty, now resembled a crime scene filled with broken glass and signs of a struggle. Detective Lydia Blackwell was assigned to the case. She had a long history in the Riverton Police Department's homicide division and was known for her keen intuition and determination. As she stepped into the chaotic scene, she immediately began piecing together what had happened. She noted the overturned furniture, the blood smears leading to Jennifer's body, and the broken items that littered the floor. The investigation unfolded quickly, and all eyes turned to Ryan as the prime suspect. Security camera footage showed him leaving the premises in the early hours of the morning, his shirt stained with blood. Witness testimonies from staff and acquaintances painted a troubling picture of Ryan and Jennifer's tumultuous relationship, filled with jealousy and arguments. With each piece of evidence collected, the narrative against Ryan grew stronger. His swift disappearance made him a person of interest, and an all-points bulletin was issued for his arrest. As the investigation continued, Detective Blackwell found herself untangling a complex web of emotions and motives. The initial assumption about Ryan's guilt began to shift as more details emerged, yet he remained firmly in the spotlight as the investigation pushed forward. The truth behind the tragic events seemed to lie just beneath the surface, waiting to be revealed. As the trial began, Arya took the stand to provide her testimony. She became a crucial witness, sharing her experiences with Ryan and the complicated dynamics of his relationship with Jennifer. Arya's words painted a vivid picture of manipulation and control. She described how Ryan felt trapped in a situation where Jennifer's wealth and influence overshadowed his life. Arya spoke about the emotional turmoil Ryan faced, which resonated with the jury and shifted the focus away from just the tragic death of Jennifer. Her insights offered a different perspective, helping the court see Ryan as more than a mere suspect. Public perception of Ryan started to change as the trial progressed. Initially seen as a cold-blooded murderer, he was now being viewed as a victim of abuse. Many began to understand the complexity of his situation. The narrative shifted, bringing to light the darker aspects of Jennifer's behavior. The courtroom was filled with tension as the jury considered the evidence and testimonies presented. After weeks of deliberation, the jury returned with their verdict. Ryan was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter, a decision that acknowledged his role in Jennifer's death, but also considered the circumstances surrounding the case. The judge sentenced him to 5 years in prison, allowing the possibility of parole after 3 years. The case left a lasting impact, raising questions about love, control, and the tragic consequences of toxic relationships. The heartbreaking events surrounding Jennifer and Ryan remind us that appearances can be deceiving. How far would you go to hold on to someone you love? Let us know your views in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more insightful content. A luxury SUV speeding down Kars's road under the night sky. A father and daughter crushed beneath its wheels. The driver, Natasha Iqbal, walks away seemingly unscathed, while 2 lives are left behind, forever altered. This isn't just a story about a tragic accident. It's a grim example of how justice can bend in the face of wealth and power. In this video, we shall see wealth versus justice, and how Natasha Iqbal escaped accountability in the Kars's tragedy, and the unsettling question of whether the rich in Pakistan can truly get away with murder. On a quiet August evening, Kars's road became the scene of a horrific tragedy. Natasha Iqbal, driving her luxury SUV at an alarming speed, lost control of the vehicle and caused a deadly crash. The accident claimed the lives of 2 people, Imran Arif and his young daughter Amina Arif, while 4 others were left injured, including Abdus Salam, who sustained severe injuries. The impact was so violent that bystanders described the scene as chaotic and heartbreaking. CCTV footage later emerged, capturing the moments leading up to the accident. It showed Natasha's car speeding recklessly before crashing into pedestrians and other vehicles. Eyewitnesses reported seeing her driving erratically just before the collision, swerving dangerously between lanes and seemingly unaware of the risks she was taking. The footage and the testimonies left little doubt that Natasha's reckless driving had caused a devastating loss of life. The victims of the accident were from ordinary families, whose lives were irreversibly changed in an instant. Imran Arif was a devoted father, and Amina, his daughter, was just starting her life. The deaths sent shockwaves through the local community. Abdus Salam, one of the survivors, remained in critical condition for weeks, fighting for his life. The tragedy did not only impact the immediate victims, but also left their families and friends grappling with grief, pain, and a profound sense of injustice. The Kars's accident sent shockwaves through Pakistan, and the public's reaction was swift and furious. Witnesses described Natasha Iqbal's behavior immediately after the crash as indifferent and cold. In a video, she appeared calm, showing little remorse for the lives lost. Some eyewitnesses even stated that Natasha seemed confident she would avoid any serious consequences, as though her wealth and influence would protect her from the law. This attitude of seeming arrogance further fueled public outrage. As news of the incident spread, people took to social media platforms to express their anger and frustration. The hashtag Justice for Amina began trending, with users condemning the idea that the rich could easily escape punishment in Pakistan's justice system. The accident quickly became a symbol of the growing divide between the rich and poor, with many accusing the legal system of being biased towards the wealthy. Protests and online petitions called for Natasha to be held accountable, as people feared that her financial power would allow her to buy her way out of any legal trouble. Following the accident, Natasha was arrested and taken into custody. However, instead of being immediately transferred to jail, she was remanded to the Jinnah Postgraduate Medical Center for medical examination. This raised even more suspicions among the public, as many believed that this was just another attempt to shield her from the law. Initial reports also suggested that Natasha may have been intoxicated at the time of the crash, which added to the outrage. Though these reports were not confirmed right away, the possibility that she had been driving under the influence deepened public concern about the accountability of those with wealth and privilege. As the public outrage grew, the legal proceedings against Natasha Iqbal officially began. Her defense team quickly set the stage by claiming that Natasha suffered from severe mental health issues and had no recollection of the accident. Her lawyers argued that she had been experiencing a psychological breakdown at the time of the crash, making her incapable of understanding her actions. This claim of mental illness immediately stirred controversy, as many questioned whether it was a genuine condition or simply a tactic to avoid punishment. The public, already angered by the incident, grew even more skeptical. If Natasha was truly suffering from such a serious mental disorder, people wondered how she had been allowed to drive in the first place. The argument raised concerns about whether her wealth and status were being used to manipulate the legal system. Many people believed that this defense was just another example of the rich using their resources to evade responsibility, leading to even greater public mistrust of the legal process. Despite her defense team's efforts, the Jinnah Postgraduate Medical Center later released an official statement, declaring Natasha mentally fit to stand trial. This report directly contradicted her lawyer's claims of mental instability, casting further doubt on the legitimacy of her defense. The court accepted the JPMC's findings, but this did not stop her legal team from continuing to push the narrative of her mental health struggles in an attempt to sway the court's opinion. In addition to Natasha's bail application, her husband also became involved in the case. He was granted interim bail, which signaled that both Natasha and her family were employing various legal maneuvers to mitigate the consequences of the accident. The legal battle that followed was marked by delays, negotiations, and a growing sense that the wealthy could indeed bend the law to their advantage. As the legal proceedings continued, attention turned to an important aspect of Pakistan law: Dayat, also known as blood money. Under this law, offenders who commit manslaughter or murder can pay financial compensation to the victim's family to settle the case. Dayat is rooted in Islamic principles and allows the families of victims to forgive the offender in exchange for money, which effectively ends criminal proceedings. While this practice is legally recognized, it has often been criticized for enabling wealthier individuals to avoid full accountability for their actions. In Natasha Iqbal's case, the Dayat law became a central part of the resolution. Her family agreed to pay over 5.5 crore as blood money to the family of Amina Arif, one of the victims. In addition to this large sum, Natasha's family also provided additional compensation to those who were injured in the accident, including Adba Salam, who had sustained critical injuries. The payments were presented in a way to bring closure to the grieving families, but they also sparked a debate about justice, fairness, and the influence of wealth in such legal outcomes. Some members of Amina's family publicly forgave Natasha, citing religious reasons and stating they were doing so in the name of Allah. This act of forgiveness was a key part of the settlement under Dayat, and it allowed the legal case to come to an end. However, the public reaction to this development was mixed. Many saw this financial settlement as nothing more than a misuse of wealth, a way for the rich to escape consequences that an ordinary person would likely face. Others, however, viewed it as a legitimate solution, pointing out that Dayat is legal under Sharia law, and forgiveness is encouraged in Islamic teachings. While the legal case may have been closed with the payment of blood money, the controversy surrounding it left a lasting impression on the public. For some, it reinforced the belief that the rich can easily buy their freedom, while for others it served as a reminder of the complexities of balancing religious, legal, and moral values in Pakistan's justice system. The Karzis accident shed light on serious issues within the Pakistan legal system. It demonstrated how individuals with significant wealth often use their financial power to escape the consequences of their actions. This case is not an isolated incident. It highlights a broader pattern where rich individuals manipulate the legal process to their advantage. For instance, many high-profile cases in Pakistan reveal similar trends, where wealth directly impacts the outcome of legal proceedings. These examples create a concerning narrative about justice that favors those with deep pockets. Experts have voiced their concerns about how wealth and influence shape legal outcomes, particularly in cases involving road accidents. They argue that wealth can manipulate investigations, affect judicial decisions, and create an environment where the rule of law is compromised. This manipulation not only erodes public confidence, but also raises ethical questions about the equality of justice. As more cases like Natasha Iqbal's come to light, it becomes increasingly important to address these systemic issues. The Karsus tragedy serves as a stark reminder of the urgent need for reform within the legal system to ensure that justice is truly served for everyone, regardless of their economic status. Pakistan faces significant challenges when it comes to road safety, and the case of Natasha Iqbal has highlighted some of these issues. Many wealthy individuals frequently escape penalties for violating traffic laws, which raises serious concerns about accountability. Instances of affluent drivers flouting regulations without facing severe consequences are all too common. This behavior not only endangers public safety, but also perpetuates a culture where the rich feel they are above the law. When comparing Pakistan's road safety enforcement to countries like the United States, the differences become strikingly clear. In the United States, strict regulations are in place, and law enforcement takes traffic violations seriously, resulting in substantial penalties for offenders. This contrast emphasizes the urgent need for Pakistan to strengthen its traffic laws and ensure unbiased enforcement. The current system often allows wealth and influence to dictate the outcomes of road safety incidents, creating a sense of injustice among ordinary citizens. There is a pressing need for reforms in Pakistan's approach to road safety. Stricter traffic laws must be implemented, along with a commitment to fair enforcement that applies equally to everyone, regardless of their financial status. International initiatives, such as the United Nations Road Safety Strategy, offers a framework that Pakistan could adopt. By focusing on improving infrastructure, enhancing driver education, and promoting responsible driving habits, Pakistan could significantly reduce road accidents and fatalities. Pakistan has the potential to turn the tide on its road safety issues, but it requires a collective effort to hold everyone accountable, especially those who believe their wealth grants them immunity from the law. The case of Natasha Iqbal serves as a striking example of the challenges within Pakistan's border justice system. It reflects the troubling reality that wealth and privilege can often shield individuals from accountability. Natasha's actions and the subsequent legal outcomes highlight the need for serious reflection on how the justice system operates, particularly in cases involving road safety. This situation calls for urgent reform to ensure that no one, regardless of their financial status, can evade legal responsibility for their actions. Reforming law is crucial to preventing wealthy individuals from escaping the consequences of their behavior. The public outcry over Natasha's case underscores a deep-seated frustration with a legal system perceived as favoring the rich. Addressing these concerns require a commitment to creating a fair and just system that holds everyone accountable. This includes strengthening traffic laws and ensuring that enforcement is consistent and unbiased. As viewers, it is essential to stay aware of road safety issues and the need for systemic legal reform in Pakistan. By raising awareness and advocating for change, individuals can contribute to creating a safer environment for all road users. Take the time to engage in conversations about road safety in your community, support initiatives aimed at reforming traffic laws, and hold local authorities accountable for enforcing those laws. In closing, we must honor the lives lost in the tragic Karsus accident. No family should have to endure such preventable tragedies. It is vital that we work together to ensure that similar incidents don't happen again, fostering a culture of safety and accountability on our roads. Please share your thoughts in the comments below and how we can advocate for better road safety and justice. If you found this video informative, like, subscribe, and help spread awareness of this important issue.